Good morning. Continuing in Merging with Śiva, going through the lessons in the order in which Gurudeva gave them, not in the order in the book. So we're in chapter 36, Karma, the Natural Law, drawn from the Master Course 1967 edition and other materials after that. Lesson 248, working it out on the inside. Interesting idea. Talking about karma. The third way that past actions are reenacted is through the actual intense reactionary experience and working with yourself, conquering inner desires and emotions. When something happens to you that you put in motion in a past life or earlier in this life, sit down and think it over. Do not strike out. Do not react. Work it out inside yourself. Take the experience within into the pure energies of the spine and transmute that energy back into its primal source. In doing so, what happens? You change its consistency. It no longer has magnetic power, and awareness flows away from that memory pattern forever. So it's the magnetism that attracts experiences. So if something doesn't have magnetic power, it won't attract anything. You could remember the experience, but your perspective would be totally detached and objective. This is the most common way karma is resolved in day-to-day experiences. By living an inner life, you stop creating uncomplimentary karma and can therefore consciously face the reactions of the past without the confusion of additional day-to-day reactions. So that's very important. If we're involved in day-to-day reactions, we don't handle the karma that comes to us from the past wisely. We're too distracted by all the day-to-day reactions. So, therefore, we need to face the reactions of the past without the confusion of additional day-to-day reactions. And how do we do that? We live wisely in the present. Everyone lives an inner life. When you were thinking over that film that you saw last week, that is inner life. When you are deeply involved in a reactionary area because of something that has happened or is happening to someone else, you are living inwardly the same experience that you think he or she is going through. In your life, someone you love has gone through an experience, and you have shared it with him. You felt his suffering and began to live it through dramatically. Actually, that same experience under a different set of conditions would have been happening to you. But it was happening to you in an indirect way through observation. You were able to vicariously work through the karma. Perhaps your friend is destined to lose his leg in this life because he caused someone else to lose a leg in a past life. If he is living as an instinctive being, with all the energies flowing through the first two chakras, memory and reason, and through the passive physical forces, that experience will come to him in full force. However, perhaps he has his energies flowing through aggressive intellectual forces. Even if he is not consciously on the path of enlightenment, but is kindly and subdues his instinctive reactions by his intellect, that karma would still come back to him, but he would experience it in a different way. One morning, he may pick up the newspaper and read about an automobile accident in which someone has lost a leg. This news jars him. His solar plexus tightens. His reaction is so severe that he cannot eat his breakfast that morning. He does not know why. But all day he lives and relives every experience the article describes. He wonders, what if this had happened to me? What would I do? How would I face it? How would I adjust my consciousness to it? At work, he imagines himself going through life with one leg, the therapy, the family concern, the emotional adjustment. It may take him 3 or 4 days to work his awareness out of that reaction. He does not know why that particular article in the newspaper impressed him so much. It seems foolish to him to think so much about the event, and he tries to forget it. Soon thereafter, when hiking in the mountains, he stumbles and falls, cutting his thigh on the jagged rocks, tearing a few ligaments. The full force of the karmic experience comes, but because of his present goodness and previous blessings earned through control of his intellect, he receives the experience as a minor wound and an emotional reaction to another's losing his leg. This seed karma is worked through within himself in this way. He does not have to lose a leg as he would if he were living in the instinctive mind of fear, anger, and jealousy. Interesting idea earlier on here, a couple paragraphs back, I wanted to comment on. You were able to vicariously work through this karma. That's a really great way to work through karma. Watch somebody else go through it. Much less disturbing, right? But even television, Gurudeva said, even television can help you vicariously work through karma. You're understanding a pattern of experience so well that you don't have to go through it. So, television isn't all bad. So, my commentary about losing the leg and only having it get scratched. Gurudeva brought up the idea of mitigation of karma, lessening the impact, mitigation, which is the 7th principle of karma management. So we're going to read the 7th principle of karma management from the article, from the Insight section. It's making the same point here. Once we have stopped acting in ways that create new negative karma, our life will be sublime enough to focus on ridding ourselves of karmas of the past. Just the point that Gurudeva made. We can't rid ourselves of karma of the past if our current life is always upset. Mitigating them, meaning to make them less harsh, painful, or severe. To better understand mitigation, let's make a comparison to the judicial system. A man commits armed robbery and receives a 10 to 20-year sentence. But due to good behavior in prison, he is paroled after only 5 years. He has mitigated his sentence, making it less severe through his good behavior. Now let's take an example of karma that is mitigated. You are destined to lose a leg. Okay, so we don't have to read that one again. Goes through the summary of, short version of what Gurudeva said. There are several methods by which we can mitigate our karma. Sounds very practical. Following Dharma. Living virtuously in itself, which was the example Gurudeva gave, helps modulate the release of karmic seeds, evening out the ebb and flow of karma and minimizing karmic explosions that might otherwise occur. Thus, negative karmas in one's individual pattern are naturally avoided or mollified, and positive karmas accentuated and brought into fruition. just by following Dharma. Karma Yoga. Helping others, Karma Yoga, performing good deeds and thus acquiring merit, which registers as a new and positive karma, is one way of alleviating the heaviness of some of our past karma. Bhakti Yoga. Worship, Bhakti Yoga, that is intense enough to cause us to receive the grace of the gods. Well, it has to be intense enough, not superficial Bhakti Yoga. Intense enough to cause us to receive the grace of the gods can change the patterns of karma dating back many past lives, clearing and clarifying conditions that were created hundreds of years ago and are but seeds now, waiting to manifest in the future. Key concept here is intensity. Dropping by the temple for 15 minutes on the way home from work is unlikely to accomplish such a transformation. Another way to mitigate karma, pilgrimage. Pilgrimage is an excellent way to generate an intensity of worship. Over the years, Gurudeva's devotees have pilgrimaged to India, visiting major temples such as Chidambaram, Rameshwaram, and Palani Hills. Many have come back transformed. They physically look a little different, behave differently, and fit back into life in a more positive way than before. Their karma was changed by the grace of the gods. And a couple more ways. Vows. A vrata or vow can also generate an intensity of worship, such as fasting during the day and attending the temple on each of the 6 days of Skanda Shashti, the 21 days of Vinayaka Vratam. Both are coming up soon. And penance. Penance, prayaschitta, is the 6th way to mitigate karma. This is like punishing yourself now and getting it over with. Instead of waiting for your karma to manifest a punishment in the future. Typical form of penance is to perform walking prostrations, such as around a sacred lake or mountain, up a sacred path, or around a temple. Often it is advised to perform penance that is directly related to a misdeed. Let's take the example of a teacher who frequently used corporal punishment to discipline students, but now strongly feels hitting children for any reason, even for discipline, is wrong. An appropriate penance would be to print and distribute to teachers literature on alternatives to corporal punishment. This type of penance should only be undertaken after a certain degree of remorse is shown and the urgency is felt by the devotee to rid his mind of the plaguing matter. And then, as you know, in karma management, each section ends with a quote from Gurudeva and a quote from the Tirukkural. So Gurudeva says, when pre-dawn morning pujas, scriptural reading, devotionals to the Guru, and meditation are performed without fail, the deeper side of ourselves is cultivated, and that in itself softens our karmas and prolongs life. In the Tirukkural, be unremitting in the doing of good deeds. Do them with all your might and by every possible means. Oh, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.